Hi, I'm Darren King with Unbridled Ventures. Today we are going to talk about investor updates. But first, before we talk about that exciting topic, let me tell you a little bit about Unbridled Ventures. We are an early stage angel fund. We invest everywhere in the United States and even starting to explore some international opportunities. So if you're a founder looking to raise money for your business, please go to our website, unbridled.vc. We'd love to chat with you. So back to investor updates. We believe investor updates or a lack of updates is the biggest mistake founders make. And it's also the biggest source of frustration for investors. So it's really low hanging fruit. It's an unforced error that founders make that we hope you avoid. Why are investor updates important? Largely because you want to maintain enthusiasm with your investors throughout your journey. Most startups need to raise multiple rounds of capital. The easiest source of capital for your business is your existing investors. So you keep them abreast on the business, raising future rounds will be much easier. In addition, outside of capital, a lot of investors provide other value adds like introductions to other investors, introductions to strategic partners or customers or vendors. So if you keep your investors engaged, they will be able to help you down the road. Also, most startups usually pivot, some multiple times during the course of their journey. You don't want to raise money from investors with one set of assumptions and then pivot your business model, never inform the investors, and then come back to them years later with entirely different business model and ask them to put additional capital into your business. That won't work very well. And another big benefit, not talked about enough for founders, is if you sit down monthly or quarterly, annually, and have to talk about your business, you talk about your KPIs and your strategies and your different tactics that you want to use to win in the marketplace, it'll help you crystallize your thoughts. And if you engage your team as well, it'll allow all of you to rally behind a clearer business model. And then lastly, and this isn't talked about hardly at all, but you want to make sure you provide information to all investors evenly. You don't want to be put into a situation where you have an investor try to sue you because you didn't provide them with information. And perhaps you provided others in your on your cap table with more information, giving one investor an advantage over another. So just for fairness and for legal reasons, and just because it's the best for you and your business, provide updates to your investors periodically. How often do you update your investors? If you're early, let's say half a million or less in revenue, and there are a lot of changes in your business, monthly updates are recommended. If the business is a little older, it's been established for a few years, it's the revenues are seven figures, maybe a quarterly update is all that's needed. But at a minimum, you need to update your investors at least once a year. And then besides periodic updates, don't hesitate to shoot off an update with some big milestone or important event that's happened with the business. For example, you just formed a strategic partnership with Microsoft, or you just landed a huge customer, or you're in merger talks with another company. It doesn't have to be a huge update, just a quick note, hey, we've got two sentences. We've got a strategic partnership with Microsoft, and we're excited about the future. That's it. Whom should you send updates to? Everybody on your cap table would be ideal. If you have a really crowded cap table and a lot of really, really small investors, maybe through crowdfunding or other sources, maybe you just send updates to your major investors. But ideally, you want to send them to everyone. In addition, any prospective investors or someone who may have declined investing in your business, or someone who's a key influencer, or someone who's part of your ecosystem locally would be good to have updates as well. So think about sending your updates to non-investors as well. But for these groups, you want to make sure you ask them for permission. So what information do you want to include in your updates? KPIs and metrics. Numbers mean a lot. Numbers mean more than words. So sales numbers, customers, churn, for example, if you're in a SaaS business, monthly recurring revenue, customer acquisition costs, those types of metrics are always good to have in an investor update. Whatever the metrics are that you run the business by, that you and your management team focus on, put those in your investor update. Also, product development. Keep this at a high level. A lot of people get too into the weeds on product development. Just give your investors the big picture. Here's our roadmap. Here's our key milestones. Also, information about your team. How many employees do you have currently? What key management hires and what key departures have there been over the last month or last quarter? When we say key hires and departures, we're really talking about the CEO, his or her direct reports, your board of directors, and strategic advisors or scientific advisory board members. Those types of folks. You don't have to put a blurb in your investor update for someone who's very low down on the org chart. Just keep it to the high level positions in your organization. Financial data is also very important. The amount of runway that you have, that is based on the existing cash burn, how long the business can go without having to raise additional capital. Historical and projected income statements and balance sheets are also very helpful. And then lastly, what your budget is versus your actual. Investors put money into your business based on your expectations of the way the business is going to go. Have those expectations in the form of projections. And then as the year progresses, tell your investors where you're on track or not to hit your projections. Also, let your investors know what challenges that you face. Not little challenges, but the major challenges. Keep it at a very high level and ask for help when needed. No angel investor, especially those that have been in the startup world and who have operational experience, think the business is going to go great and gangbusters. We know there are going to be problems. Tell us what the big problems are, and maybe we can help. And then don't be afraid to ask for introductions to strategic partners or customers or investors or potential employees. In a minute, we'll go over an example of a investor update report, which we'll also have on unbridled.vc. So different methods for communicating with your investors. My experience has been about 90% of all startups provide updates via email. And that's fine. And I think email is actually preferred. People read those emails whenever they want. It's memorialized. You have a copy of it. Just some formatting tips with email. Keep it short. People don't like long updates. And you as a founder won't like long updates either because it'll take much more time. So if you keep it short, you're more likely to adhere to your periodic monthly or quarterly schedule. Remember, investors love to skim. So charts and graphs are great, especially like of KPIs. And then lastly, I would say if you're going to use email, BCC your investors. Don't send an email out to 40 or 50 investors where each investor can see who's an investor in your business. Some people don't like that and like to keep it private. So you may want to respect that, their wishes of not having your private email address disclosed to people they may not know. Outside of email, some people do Zoom calls or web or phone conference calls. And if you do that, the recommendation is to be sure to record those in case someone wasn't able to make the meeting, they can go back and listen later. And then lastly, in-person meetings. If you have a local group of shareholders, try to get together with them once a year. Even if you are providing monthly or quarterly updates, it's still good to get together in person. Top mistakes we see with investor updates. One, usually they're not consistent or timely. When you set a schedule, monthly or quarterly, make sure you hit that schedule. Secondly, most updates are way too technical. You gotta remember, most, if not all, of your angel investors are investing in you. They don't really know the technical aspects of your business and they can't really comprehend it. So don't get too into the weeds. You're just going to lose them. Don't make it too wordy. Don't spend too much time putting it together. And don't put too much fluff into your investor update. You're not trying to sell someone something. You're just trying to give them an update on the status of the business. And lastly, compare the business to the expectations that you had for the business over the past year or since the time that the investor made his or her investment in your business. If you could just answer one question, the question of whether your business is on track relative to expectations or not is probably the most important for your investors. So let me show you a sample investor report that I put together that will also be on unbridled.vc that you can download. So you see this fictitious company, Acme SaaS startup. You see the first paragraph is just a summary. Some people will just read that and that'll be it. But in addition to that, put in KPIs. Whatever the metrics that are important for you to run your business or to potentially exit your business. For example, if you're a medical device company and you know that if you can get to a certain revenue and certain traction and before selling your business, keep those kinds of numbers in front of your investors and let them know how you're progressing. So here we have 6 quarters worth of data. And I chose 6 quarters because we want to show the last 12 months plus the first quarter for comparison's sake to the first quarter of the year before. So Q1 of 2021, I also have Q1 of 2020. So I can compare year over year in case there's seasonality with the business. And then I also think it's a great idea if you can include projections for what you think the next quarter will do. So you see here, I have an A for actuals, and then I have a P here for projections. No one's going to hold you to that, but just in general, your sense of the business, you know the business better than any of your investors. Tell them where you've been, where you are today, and then where you think you're going to go in the near future. As I mentioned before, investors love graphs and charts. If you could put those, especially with key metrics in your presentation, that would be helpful. Product development, you see here, these aren't, my update doesn't have paragraph after paragraph. It's just bullet points. Hey, here's what we're doing. Version 1.3 is going to be released in the near future. Team update. And again, focus this on the CEO, his or her direct reports, board members, strategic advisors, people that are critically important to the organization, but also include in the team section the number of full-time employees that you have. I didn't include that. I did not include that in this, but I should have. The number of FTEs. Financial data. Also include your financial statements, sales, gross profit, EBITDA, your cash position, which is important because that tells investors how long the business can survive without additional capital. And then runway. And runway is just your overhead, your cash position divided by your overhead. So here we're saying the business had 1.8 million in cash and the overhead was 300,000. And the business could last for 8 months based on that EBITDA number. So I said that wrong. It should be based on EBITDA and cash position, not overhead. Because you have some gross profit that will help reduce the burn from the business. And then lastly, challenges in your business. And don't hesitate to, if you have major challenges with your business, tell your investors. Most startups fail. People understand that. So don't gloss over big, important problems in your business. Tell your investors about that. And then lastly, a few other things here. Ask, what do you want your investors to do for you? Common things that I see are, please introduce us to additional investors. Please introduce us to potential customers. Please like us on social media. Please make introductions to key vendors for us. And then maybe have a little miscellaneous section in your update. And then lastly, a section about questions, and put your contact information so your investors can reach out to you. So that is it with our presentation today. We appreciate all your time. If you are looking to raise money for your business, please reach out to us at unbridled.vc/contact. We'd love to talk to you.